Hi, welcome to Soul Food. Hopefully you've got your bags today to get you through the next few days. There's a few ingredients in there, a couple of them we probably don't need to do demonstration for. I'll just give you some tips. We've got some sausages in there which will go really well with the mashed potatoes. And as I stated in the previous one, in the mash, try and experiment, be innovative by putting mustard in, or horseradish, or similar things, even chives, spring onions, things like that in your mash, just to bring out the flavours. Okay, so we're not going to talk about sausage and mash. It's a nice, simple, easy dish for you to do on your own. Today we're going to do cheese and onion pie. Now, we've got to get the pastry right. It's really important that we're making a short crust pastry. You've got to get the amounts right. You've got flour in there, you've got eggs, you've got margarine, water. So, in this bowl, I've placed 300 grams of flour and half the amount of fat to flour. So it's 150 grams of margarine. So when a short crust pastry, it's always half fat to flour. Touch of salt, that's it. Okay? First thing you're probably better off doing is cooking your onions for your cheese and onion pie. I've used the red onion, and like I showed you before, finely diced is really good for this. Cook them really slowly because you don't want any colour on there, because we need these to cool down. So before you start the pastry, chop and just cook your onions till they're like an opaque colour. Put them to one side and we'll show you the filling shortly. So, make sure you've got clean hands, and this is what we call the rubbing in method. So into the bowl, both hands, make sure the margarine is nice and soft, and all we're doing is using the fingertips and your thumb, and then we're just rubbing this margarine in slowly like this. All this will integrate with the flour to like a sandy kind of texture. Every now and again just shake it, all the big lump will come to the top and we start again. So we just keep going, probably take you a couple of minutes as long as your butter is quite soft. If your butter's hard, it'll take considerably longer. Now we don't want any big bits of margarine into this, so we've got to make sure that get them fingers and thumbs working. Get the kids involved with this. It's all like Play-Doh, like making Play-Doh. So as we're going, as you can see, it's nearly getting there. The colour's changing, it's going more of a sandy colour. And then after a minute or so, you can start feeling the butter disappearing. And it just turns into like a sandy kind of texture between your fingers. Give it another shake, just a couple more bits, and that should be good to go. Okay, that's ready to go. Right, now we're going to add the water. Now this is really important. We're using cold water for this, and once we add the water, we don't want to overwork our pastry. It's not bread. Yeah, if you overwork it, it will affect the consistency of the finished product. So what we do is we just make a little well in the middle. And here I've got roughly, 150 millilitres of water. What we're going to do is slowly add it. Depending on the warmth of your hands, the warmer your hands, the more water it's going to take. So we're going to add a little bit, and then we're going to fold your mixture into the water like that. And with one hand, just start moving it around. And you'll get to know kind of when it needs a bit more water. The reason why we're adding it slowly, it's difficult then, if you add too much at once, to take that away. So a little bit more, so I know this is going to take a little bit more. And after a while, you'll see it starts to form this pastry. That's going to take a little bit more, tiny bit at a time, tiny bits, but don't overwork it. Nice and slow. We're not kneading, we're not beating it, we're not making cakes. As it's coming together now, slightly wet is good because we're going to be adding a little bit of flour when we roll out. As it's getting ready, squeeze it together like that, and that is your pastry ready. And we're just going to leave that to one side. I'll go and wash my hands, and then we'll go through the filling. So for the filling, we've got some grated cheese. It's up to you, depends on what dish you're cooking it in. We're going to use ours, so it's quite a large pie mould really. You can do it on a plate, just make sure it's oven-proof plate, and slightly grease with some of the margarine to help come out in the end. So we've got our grated cheese. We're going to add our diced cooked onion. We're going to crack 1 egg in. And then this is all dependent on you. Remember, I'm going to add some Dijon mustard because it works really well with cheese. So a teaspoon of Dijon, maybe a little bit more. Some paprika. And a couple of twists of black pepper. Now, don't need any salt because your cheese is quite seasoned as it is. And we're just going to incorporate all them together. In total, you're going to need 2 eggs for this dish because I have cracked 1 egg there for the glaze on top of the pie before it goes into the oven. So that's your kind of mix ready to go. Again, at this stage you can add some fresh herbs, you can add some parsley, you can add some chives, all dependent on what you like. Okay, now's the time to roll out the pastry. So, make sure plenty of flour on the surface. And I'm only going to use half this because I need half of the top. So, put half to one side. Again, just give it a little bit of a move around, and we want to start with round because we're going to roll it round. A little bit of flour onto the rolling pin, and then we're rolling and moving. So we roll and we move, we roll and move all the time. Now it needs to be quite thin. You don't want it too thick because you don't want a soggy bottom when it's finished, as Mary Berry says. So we need it larger than the tray you're putting in because the lip's got to come over the edge as well. So that's enough. And here's a little chef tip for you if you want to close in on the camera. If you place your rolling pin like this, fold the lip over, then roll it back as long as you've got flour. Then with your tray, just do the opposite. Voila. Right, now we need to get into the side, so just with your fingers, just lift up the edges so you're not stretching, and then we're just going to lift up that like that. And then just pinch the edges so you've got a bit of a lip. Now we're going to leave them bits on for now, until we've added our topping. In with the filling. And again, it's as how generous you want your filling to be, depending on what kind of tray you put it in. Let's get all that in there, that lovely cheese mix. And then we're ready to do the topping. So again, with the topping, plenty of flour. Just get that the right shape to start with on your pin, and then we'll go in again with the same size. So same as before, roll and move. Roll and move. You can flip it over if you want, there's plenty of flour on the other side. And if you feel it sticking, just do what we did before when we took the pastry onto our mould, and just lightly flour the bottom. So when you know you've got the right size, you just roll that over. Now, important, egg wash. We're going to save some. We're going to egg wash the edges just to help with that sticking. And then we're doing exactly like we did before. We're just going to roll on the top. Now pinch the edges like this, and before we cut off the excess pastry. So they're pinched. Be careful with this. With the knife, we're just going to trim around the edge like this. Now I'm not going to bin this, I'm going to show you how to decorate in the end. Now, crimp your pie, take your thumb and your forefinger, pinch them together on your finger on your other hand, and just go in between like this, all the way around. Get some flour on if it's sticking, and that's just crimping. You can use a fork if it's easier. And that's done. I'm going to put a couple of little holes in each side just to let the air escape. Now, as I said before, we want to make it a bit fancy, special family occasion. So we're going to do some petals on top. So you just want some flat bits of your pastry that's left. And we're going to get a knife. We're going to need 8 of these, so we're going to cut that like that. So you cut an angle, just trim that bit off like that. And then we just go, so you want like diamond kind of shapes like that. So we start with 4, and then to do the leaves, 1 in the middle like that, and then come on the edges like that. As you can see, 35 to 40 minutes later, cheese onion pie is ready and out of the oven. Now, really important that you let it rest 5 to 10 minutes. Don't start cutting it straight away. Just let the pastry settle, otherwise it'll crumble, fall apart when you cut it. Now, for portioning off, into the middle, take a nice slice. Just make sure it's coming away at the edges. And just have another little run through that. Look at that, beautiful. Now this is just as nice cold as it is hot, with whatever, some salad, some beans, some new potatoes. Really nice, really good spring summer meal. Enjoy, show me the photos.